Hey, get inspired, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Life Inspired, the show where we talk about how and why people are following Jesus. And so because of COVID, things are really crazy. And normally you guys get to see me on the red couch. I am in a red chair in the little Harmony room upstairs at the Inspired Homes office because TJ21 has COVID. So they're trying to keep me from being sick. And so I have to do this from a new technology from the office. And thank you for bearing with us. Remember that you can like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and watch these from lifeinspiredshow.com. And when you do those things, more people will get to hear the stories. But I want to thank Jeff Castello for being our guest today. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Diane, how are you?
So grateful to have you. You're so kind to share your story about your turning point. So for people that have never seen this before, we typically are going to ask Jeff some questions about, some kind of time in his life when God turned him from one path to a new path. And what were the circumstances of that? So what's your backstory to whatever turning point you plan to share? I'm sure you have several turning points and maybe you're going to share more than one. Tell us some backstory.
Well, as I was kind of preparing for this, I was starting to think about everything that's kind of changing in my life. And, I grew up in a Christian home. I was born and raised in Catholicism. And, my family attended every week. My father was an usher. My mom and I would sit in the pews and, go through the service. But I found that I just didn't really make the connection. It was more out of kind of routine, I hate to say. But it just didn't feed where I needed to be. And part of it was I was younger at the time. And as I grew older and into my 20s, I kind of strayed away from it. I just wasn't attending as regularly and just bad choices, really. And so it kind of took on a different life for me to go to church. I kind of became that EC person. I was going on Easter and Christmas and some other times through the year, but not really into the every Sunday during the week. There was not that feeling. And so at the age of, so my 20s, I kind of swayed away. When I turned 33, which is kind of ironic, I always think about Christ at 33 and the crucifixion and the change there. And I went through a divorce and it kind of just spun my world around. And I wasn't sure exactly what I needed to do, but I felt this urging then to kind of grow closer to Christ. So I started to attend a Methodist church, and that seemed to kind of fit. I just got a different feel with it. And again, the relationship aspect changed a little bit. But honestly, I kind of went through that for several years, and that's where I was heading. And I thought everything was good. And I thought this is what it should be like, because it was more than what I had gotten in the past, and my relationship was growing, but there was still a void. And as a father and a husband, you're the person that's supposed to help get your family, centered and led. But an ironic twist happened because my oldest daughter, Carly, became friends with a girl in school, and her father was a pastor at a church in Elkhart. And just through her encouragement and watching her go to church, and I let her go to this other church. It was fine. She wanted to attend with her friend. And then my youngest daughter, Cassie, did the same thing. She was friends with the younger daughter of the pastor. And I got invited one Sunday by Carly. She said, "Dad, please come with me. Just see what it's like." And it's just different than what we've experienced before. I said, "Okay." And I went, and it was a pivotal change. I walked in, and I remember looking at the platform, and there were band instruments on the stage. And I thought, what's this? I was used to an organ back in Catholicism and maybe a guitar mass, but that was really it. So I thought, what's going on here? And I had never experienced what contemporary worship looked like. And I remember it was back in the days before like screens were popular on the sides and there's all the electronics. Right. Screen came down like a movie theater, and the words came on as they started. And I was like, this is like Christian karaoke. I can do this, and I started to kind of watch some of the songs because I didn't really know that much about contemporary Christian music. I thought Christian music was the Gaithers, and I was enjoying that. So to take this to a new edge, I wasn't listening to Pulse FM. I wasn't, into any of the artists I didn't really know. But as I watched and I listened and the words spoke, God just grabbed a hold of me and shook me really. And I could finally relate and say, okay, this is what I get. I remember tearing up here in one of the first songs, Lord, I give you my heart. And I just remember that song still impacts me because it was one of the first songs I heard at that first service. And it just got a hold of me. And I thought, I can do this. And I continued to go and continued to go. And my daughter, Carly, said something to the pastor about, well, my dad sings and he plays piano. And the pastor was like, well, let's have him over for dinner. So I went to their house and we started talking about the worship team and what was going on at the church. And he asked me to sing and play a little bit. And I did down in their basement. And he said, would you be interested in joining the worship team? And I thought, I've been in bands and things before because I was a music major in college. And okay. And I was really enjoying what I saw at church because I was really connecting and my relationship was just changing and I could feel that. So I thought, yeah, okay. So I went and I played with the team one night, and 2 weeks later, I started to play regularly and then lead worship, and then eventually became the music director at that church.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so I was there for about 5 years, and my daughter had gone off to college. And coming home in the summer of her freshman year, she had started to attend to another church in the Elkhart Goshen area, and she did the same thing. She said, Dad, come to church with me one Sunday. And I thought that aha moment came up and I was like, well, okay. And I just went to visit and really got into what I was seeing in my relationship and the connection and what I had not experienced before. It was deeper. It was a little more in your face preaching. So I was being challenged. So it took me from where it needed to get me to taking it further. And I sat in the congregation for about 6 months before I even mentioned that I played piano or that I led worship or anything like that. And the worship leader at the time put a call out to the congregation, hey, we're looking to grow the team and if there's anybody interested. And I sent him an email that night and he responded. I went in on that following Tuesday and auditioned and played a couple songs with him, and we just had a great connection and a great relationship. And I started playing my first service there on that following Sunday, and then he moved on to another position, and I became the director of worship arts and tech arts there for 8 years.
Wow.
So God just kind of took, he always I always felt like him saying, I gave you this gift. Now I want you to glorify me with that gift.
Right.
And so being able to connect that way that it did for me, I thought, what a great opportunity for people that maybe aren't, there. I was looking to plant a seed, where are these other people that maybe were like I was, or even had less experience with a relationship, that maybe a song will change it and maybe it will touch them. And so I just kind of got a little more involved. And again, I was pretty heavy in the worship and tech arts aspect. And I started, because I was a concert promoter on the side. I got into promoting Christian concerts because it touched me so much. I wanted everybody to experience that too.
Cool.
And so the church said, can you put some concerts on for us? So I proceeded to do that as well. And we had quite a few concerts that we hosted. And so God just kind of took everything and pulled it into one aspect to where I could lead worship, use the gift that he gave me, continue to grow my relationship and get deeper with him. And it just all worked out really well. And the ironic thing is he finally took that final piece, which was I was working for a company that I enjoyed working for. I wasn't looking to do any switch, but I was a sales manager for this company. So I traveled a lot and promoting concerts on the side. I was in Minnesota, and I'll never forget this. I was in Minnesota. I called my rep back at Pulse FM, and I was checking on some concert advertising that we were doing for a show. And I did the complaining, I guess, I'm out on a road and, I've been gone for a week. Exactly. Just kind of like, the normal stuff. And she said, you know what? We're hiring. Do you want me to get you an interview? And it was another aha moment. I'd already had a couple seeds planted, and I responded and I thought, okay. So I came back from Minnesota, had my first interview, and I don't think I've ever even told my boss this, But after my interview, I went back to the job I was at, and I felt so strongly in my spirit that God was like, I'm going to move you again.
You're going over here.
I quit my job. I gave my 2 weeks notice without being offered a job.
Wow.
And stepped in faith. And that was a toughie. And I think that that's tough for a lot of people. Making that step when you're in your comfort zone and you just don't want to listen to that still small voice, and you're like, no, that's something else. And I did. And I left where I was, and great people, great organization. And for 2 weeks while that notice was going by, I was waiting for my call. And
Lord, I thought you
Lord,
said.
exactly. Send me a text, send me anything. And I finally got it. And my boss, current boss now, because I'm here at Pulse FM and TV 46, Anna called me and she said, hey, I want you to come in for a second interview. And I was like, oh, thank God, it's all good. At least there's some hope here. And I interviewed with her again, and they offered me the job, and I've been here 15 years.
Wow.
And so it's been a blessing. God just took what was kind of a wandering soul and pulled me back to strengthen that, and used music to do it. And so now, between leading worship, concert promotion, and Pulse FM, the contemporary Christian music, it's a complete piece.
Yeah.
So I think I think there's a lot of paths that people go on. And my grandmother used to say something. She used to say, Jeff, she goes, if you're a believer, she goes, we're all going to heaven. We're just taking different roads. And that just stuck with me all my life. And I thought, you're right. It doesn't matter whether you're Catholic or you're a Methodist or you're a First Presbyterian or whatever it is. If you're following Jesus and you allow him to make those changes and those alterations in your life and don't fight it, it'll come to fruition, and it'll be great. And it's been perfect.
That's cool. I think that perspective also helps us to not judge our brothers and sisters in Christ and stuff like that.
Amen. Yeah.
That doesn't look like, what? That's their relationship with God. You got to let
Exactly.
them.
Yeah. That doesn't look like what I do. Why is that? But no, you're
Because
absolutely
there's
right.
different people they're supposed to touch that
That's
you
right.
would never touch because they're not like you, whatever.
Yeah. Right. I think, if you really can tune in and let those seeds be planted, and act on them, even though it might be tough. I just think it's, God, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to bring you hope and a future. That's what he wants to do, but you kind of got to follow it.
Amen.
It's kind of like the 10 commandments, not the 10 you've got to really tune in and follow in it. And it's been a blessing for me. I love doing what I do, and it's been great. So
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I always like to say to our viewers, hey, if you've had some stuff in your life, kind of like Jeff's story, and you'd like to pick Jeff's brain about your story, hook us, we'll hook you up. So whether you're watching from
Absolutely
the lifeinspiredshow.com, there's a way to message us on there, or if you're watching from the YouTube page, and there's the message part underneath that, or you can message us through the Facebook. So either way, we'll put you in touch with Jeff so he can have a little coffee with you, or do a virtual visit or something like that, a phone call, whatever works for you.
Yep.
So thanks for sharing, Jeff. We're so grateful
You're
to have
welcome. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. You guys have a great week. Thanks for watching Life Inspired Show. Bye-bye.